Tell you straight out, the Israeli army uses no weaponry that is outlawed under international convention. Israel army uses no weaponry that's not used by NATO forces, by the forces of Britain, Canada, the United States and other countries.
Okay, if we're talking about nuances, Mr. Regev, let's be specific here, rather than sort of tiptoeing around it, which is what you seem to be doing by saying you don't use stuff that's outlawed. Are you using white phosphorus?
You've had my colleague, Major Avital Leibovich, a number of times in this chair. You should ask her. I'm not aware of operational procedures. That's not my job. I'm not the IDF spokesperson. I do know that it would be unfair to point the finger at Israel for using a munition that is used by Canadians, Frenchmen, Germans, if it's accepted munitions in NATO forces.
If Canadian, French or whoever else was sitting in the same chair as you are and representing the government of Israel, I would ask their representatives exactly the same. Are you saying you don't use it, or are you saying you don't know?
Once again, I'm saying quite out, I don't have the knowledge of that detail of what munitions we're using. I can only know for a fact that Israel uses no munition whatsoever that is outlawed under international convention that NATO forces wouldn't use in a similar combat situation.
Well, joining me now from Jerusalem is the Israeli military spokesperson, Major Avital Leibovich. Thanks for joining us. If I could put that question to you, first of all, Major. Is Israel using phosphorus weapons, white phosphorus, in Gaza?
Well, the only answer I can give you is that the IDF is using munition with accordance to the international law.
Why can you not be more specific? It seems a little strange. We've put this question to Mark Regev. He said you could answer it. Now you're saying you can't.
Well, we at the IDF do not specify what types of munitions we're using, as well as we don't specify what kind of operations we are operating on. So this is just our policy, and we'll leave it in this.
Why I still don't understand. You have in the past, during the conflict in Lebanon, talked about the use or lack of it of cluster bombs. Why are you unable to answer a simple question as to whether Israel is using white phosphorus on a civilian population?
I answered your question with a simple answer, and I don't intend to elaborate anymore.
But,
however, I am
puzzled,
why don't you deal with the crimes of Hamas, for example?
Well, I take it you're not a spokesperson for Hamas, so I won't ask you about Hamas's operations. You're a spokesperson for the Israeli military.
No, I'm puzzled. Why aren't you?
I would really like to get an answer as to whether there are serious allegations that Israel is violating international law by using white phosphorus on a civilian population.
And I can assure you that Israel is not violating the international law. And this is the answer I can give you. Now, I don't understand why aren't you asking why is Hamas booby-trapping schools and houses and zoos like we released footage of this today? Is that according to international law?
Well, you know, those questions will obviously be posed to Hamas representatives. We have asked them questions of their military conduct. But as I said, coming back to the point, we've seen pictures of what appear to be white phosphorus clouds over Gaza City. Are you going to tell me those are not white clouds of phosphorus that were released over Gaza City today?
The policy of the IDF is not to specify the types of munition. We haven't done it before, and I don't intend on specifying it right now.
Why not allow an international investigation if you have strong evidence that you have not committed any violation of international law and that all the violations are solely on the part of Hamas? Surely you have nothing to fear from an international investigation.
You're definitely right. We have nothing to fear. We have nothing to hide. However, we are an army. We're entitled to keep our secrets inside the organizations and our methods of operation and our types of munition. And this is why we will not elaborate on these details.
But
it's
surely,
very simple.
Not when there are allegations that war crimes have been committed. The principle is, when there are allegations of a war crime being committed against civilians, the international community is allowed to investigate. Why will you not allow the international community to investigate?
For the past few days, I've been hearing allegations from many kinds. Some of them are manipulation of Hamas. Some of them, the resource are rumors. Some of them, we're talking about anonymous sources. So, you know, the allegations have many faces as well. As I said before, we are not specifying the types of munition. We have nothing to hide.
Then
Maybe
surely
you know
that's
that
more
we
of a
embedded a
reason.
journalist, a
But
foreign journalist into Gaza with the forces. So
If
we
you
really have
have-
nothing to hide here.
If you feel you've been a victim of rumors, surely the best way to clarify that is to allow an international investigation. We have heard from many different organizations, including Human Rights Watch, who said that they've stood on the border of Jabalia and watched your military drop white phosphorus. As you know, when that is released in the air, that causes burning clouds up to 800 feet long, which cannot be controlled. It is an indiscriminate weapon. Now, if you feel that that is a rumor, why not allow an international investigation to clear your name and pin the blame solely on Hamas, as you say?
First of all, I'm a representative of the army, not of the government. Second, there's other ways to clear those rumors. For example, entering the press to Gaza with our IDF forces, as we have done in the last week. We have nothing to hide. We did not escort the press. They went inside, they saw how the IDF is operating, they saw what type of munition it's using, so we really have nothing to hide. But I wonder, where are those humanitarian organizations or human rights organizations when it comes to the Palestinians' jobs, to the Hamas modus operandi, by booby-trapping civilian areas, by putting rockets inside mosques? Is this according to the Geneva Convention? Does this not require international investigation? Where are those organizations?
Dr. Mads Gilbert, a Norwegian doctor operating in Gaza, says he has seen evidence of wounds caused by what are known as dime weapons. I suppose you're not going to be able to explain whether you are using dense, inert metal explosives whose effects are still being researched on a civilian population?
As I said before, and I'll repeat again, I don't intend to specify the types of munition the IDF is using. And by the way, I believe this is an accepted policy in many other militaries in the world. We do not specify, but all the munitions that we use are with accordance to the international law.
You know, with all due respect, Major, you know what many people, if I may say frankly, will be thinking watching this interview? They will think that the fact that you're not willing to answer the question, the fact that your colleagues seem to be passing the buck, so to speak, one says, ask Major Avital. Major Avital says, I can't answer. You say you have nothing to hide. But you know, many viewers will think that really Israel does, because you won't answer the questions and you won't allow an investigation. How do you convince viewers if that is your policy?
Well, I disagree with you, because you know the easiest thing to do on my behalf is not to come to the interview today and speak to you and your audience, which I haven't done. It's acceptable in militaries all around the world not to discuss their policy and their munitions. I can tell you that in the IDF we are very transparent and we are open to the press. Maybe you recall a month ago we invited an Al Jazeera crew to enter one of the top secret squadrons, an F-69 squadron in one of their Air Force bases. Therefore, we don't have anything to hide. I'm repeating this because I believe this. Now, does not mean that I will have to go into details of munition, which I'm not going to do. This is a policy of our military, and please respect this policy.
I have a final question about reports that you are now deploying reservists into Gaza. Can you comment on that and whether that is a sign that you are now pushing on with another stage of your offensive?
We are not starting another stage of the offensive or the operation. We had the reservist recruit 2 weeks ago. The purpose of the recruit was to give backup if there will be other areas which will flare up, like the northern border or the West Bank. And currently they're waiting for their turn. Possibly they will not be called at all.
All right, Major Avital, thanks for talking to us. Though you didn't answer the question as Mark Regev promised.